quilter's palette, and like Paul, I'm nervous, but I'm nervous because I am following Paul. So tonight I'm going to share with you a little bit about barn quilts, because I know not everyone really knows what a barn quilt is, and then I'm going to share a little bit about my journey as well. So barn quilts started in 2001, so just over 20 years ago. A lady by the name of Donna Sue Grove wanted to do something special for her mother, who was a distinguished quilter. And so she had this notion to paint a quilt block on her barn, on her mother's barn. And she thought, well, before I do that, I better check with the neighbors to make sure everybody's okay with this idea. Well, yeah, sure, the neighbors were on board, and it's like, well, what am I getting on my barn? And so thus was born actually the first barn quilt trail. So Donna's vision of a barn quilt trail consisted of 20 blocks on barns or fences. Then it was mostly barns, and they were painted directly on the barn. And she felt a grouping of 20 for a trail would be appropriate, because if you were to make a quilt 4 blocks by 5 blocks, you'd have a nice size. And so thus the first barn quilt trail was made in Ohio. And since then they've sprouted up all around, and her next notion was that every state should have one, and that there would be a clothesline of barn quilt trails across America. And so her vision, she passed away a few years ago, and her vision is almost accomplished. There are 43 barn quilt trails in the United States. We have several in Canada. Ontario is outdoing Alberta, ladies. So there are 9 official barn quilt trails in Ontario, and there are a few more that are what I call unofficial. Here in Western Canada, the most significant one we have is in Armstrong, BC, with 51 quilts on it. I'll actually be visiting Armstrong this summer to see it myself firsthand. So that's a little bit about the barn quilts. So I'll share my journey with you, and see if I can get this. All right, so this is my 4th year in business, and I really feel like I'm still the new kid on the block. So this is, and block quilts, or barn quilts, can have some meaning to them. It might be something significant to you, or a special block that you like, or it could just be colors that you like, and you just want to use it to decorate your fence or your patio, your deck, whatever. You do not need a barn, all right? And I should also note, like, the first ones were actually painted on the barns, and they were usually 8 feet by 8 feet or 10 feet by 10 feet. And then now, of course, we paint them on wood or aluminum, and they can be smaller. So this is one of the first ones I did, and I get a kick out of it when I see it, because it's on my fence. And if you don't know, that block is called Contrary Wife. Well, I don't know if my husband, he's here tonight, if he would agree with that or not. So then the second one I did, that picture kind of shrunk down a bit. But we have a suite in our home that we rent out. It's called Galloway Nest. Our home it's a historical piece of land where there used to be a tea house called Galloway House. So we have Galloway Suite that we rent out. It's in a bird theme, and it's all blues and yellows. So, of course, that block is Bird's Nest. So that's on the other side of our driveway on the fence. Now, this was my first major client project. And this was, it's not quite done actually in this picture, but it's on a sea can. So if you're familiar with sea cans, the edge of them go in and out. This one has a 6-inch deviation in and out. So that was very challenging. That one's called Love's Blossom. This is actually the pattern that I'm teaching tomorrow in my workshop. So this was actually for the same client. So her sea can is in behind this garage. And by the way, so this is an equestrian ranch in the middle of a quarter section, and no one sees this but the lady who lives there. So this is her garage, and that one's 10 feet tall. So for the last 3 years, actually, I'm just going to backtrack a little bit here. In 2022, it was a very pivotal year for my business. That was the year that the Canadian Quilter magazine came out with a spread on barn quilts. So of course everybody's Googling, oh, barn quilts, what is one? And it was also the first year I took my classes on the road. And Tracy from Purple Cats took a chance with me, and she said, yeah, sure, you host your first class at my shop. And at that shop, Terry Rowland was there. And between Tracy and Terry, well, you know, if those two are talking about you, people are going to know about you, right? So they helped that really boosted my business that year. And the other thing that happened that year was the Calgary Stampede approached me, and they knew I made barn quilts, and they said, can we borrow a few for our displays? So they have the Western Arts Oasis, and they decorate it each year. So they asked to borrow some quilts. So in 2022, I lent them 4 quilts. And then last year, they asked me again to borrow some quilts, but they also said, can you make a special one for us for the Oasis music stage? So that, on that stage, they feature up-and-coming artists, and their backdrop on the stage, you'll see it in the next slide, is a barn. So they asked me to design a barn quilt specifically for that. So this is what I came up with. It was also, so in that year, this was last year, so this is 23. Ian Tyson had passed away, and it was the 100th anniversary of the chuck wagon races. So this barn quilt is a tribute to Ian Tyson. It's called 4 Strong Winds. So the flying geese in the middle are the 4 strong winds. And if you look closely at it, you can see there's actually waves within the paint. It's kind of a water effect to it. And then the 4 items around the outside are cowboy hats, representing the 4 outriders of the chuck wagon race. So the second picture there is, I live beside this historic church. So we went over and took a picture over there. So. And then there it is on the barn on the stage. And so now if you can hold up those 2. So this year, once again, this is the 3rd year they've invited me. This time they have asked for 5 custom barn quilts. And they sent me a specific color theme, so you're getting a sneak peek of the Calgary Stampede colors. You can hold them both up. Yeah. So I'm making 4 small ones. There's these 2. There's one in my booth that I'm working on, and then a 4x4 that will go up on the barn. Woo! So I'll just very quickly go through your ask. Well, how am I doing for time?
You're good for another 10.
Oh, okay. All right. This will be good. You can put those down, ladies. Thank you. Oh, yes, absolutely. So this one here was a commission piece. So I'll just let you know with my business, it's basically 3-pronged. I teach classes, I do commission work, and I sell and ship all the supplies needed to paint barn quilts. So this was a commission piece for the Malhurst Quilt Guild here in Alberta. So she'll correct me if I'm wrong on this. My understanding is that this was made because one of their senior members had passed. Is that correct? Yeah. Yes. So her name is inscribed on it now? Is that what I understood? That her name would be on it? Yeah. And then if members pass, you'll add the members as a memorial. So this is in their meeting place. I think that's a really good idea, great idea. And one of the other things I've seen online is where Quilt Guilds, with one of their annual challenges is to challenge people to make a quilt and a barn quilt that match one another is another idea. So this one's really special to me. It's a student's barn quilt that I didn't know her. It turned out afterwards I found out my sister knew her. It's made by Debbie Matthey. She took a class at Urban Farmhouse, and at the time she was undergoing cancer treatment. And sorry, I'm probably gonna get emotional. So she made this, and she shared a lot with all of us. We got to know her, and it was a simple painting, and so she was done before everyone else. And I knew she wasn't quite happy with it. And I explained to her, well, you can change it up. Well, about a week later, she sent me what she had changed it up to. So yeah, she started out with pink and 2 shades of red and white for her background. And then she ended up mixing and matching them, and she created more shades and divided the heart up. And unfortunately, that was in July of 2022, I believe. She passed 5 weeks later. And I think this is my last one. So this one I made, again, I made this for my mother. Sorry, again. She wanted her homeland flag, which is Friesland in the Netherlands. And so I said, Mom, it can't just be the flag. So we added the tulips and the windmills. And I gave that to her about 1.5 years ago. And she passed away 2 weeks